George Enema has strategically managed brands across the FMCG and information technology sector for over 15 years, with a track record of impeccable achievements. Over this period, he's spanned across several African countries. He has been in charge of household brands like Omo, Sunlight, Vaseline, Pears, Resona, Axe, and a few more. In terms of projects, he has successfully executed some big ones, including launching and managing the Pomor brand in Benin Republic and Nigeria for British American Tobacco. His current role is that of brand manager, foods, at NOR at Unilever Nigeria PLC, and is continuous and he continues to be a big part of why it is considered by many Nigerian consumers, to be their preferred seasoning cubes. His specialties includes market segmentation, strategic market planning, brand marketing, rationalization, and customer satisfaction. So everyone, please give a warm welcome to George Enema. So George, the floor is open to you. You can give us a brief presentation. Thank you.
Hello, thanks everyone. Thanks for joining and for having me. Quite an honor. Are you going to project or should I project from here?
Please go ahead and project. Let me see if I give you access to share.
I think you have the slides. Why not project it? Because it says you've disabled the screen sharing.
Okay. Well, you can go ahead and start talking while
sharing. Okay.
I share the screen.
So okay. So quickly, what I did was to first set the context around what influencer marketing is and what it is not. I'm not going to go through all of the slides. But then it's quick to say that influencer marketing does not equal social influencers or using just social people on the social media to post stories for you. Influencer marketing focuses on using influential people to drive a brand's message to the larger market rather than marketing directly to a large group of consumers. You inspire, hire, or pay influencers to get out the word for you. If you look at the third slide, I don't know if you're projecting already.
Don't worry, go ahead. I'm going to walk through it one side.
Okay, so we talk about influencer marketing not being social, just mere social influencers. It means a network of advocates. For example, Pears brands of products who have influencers in the hospitals and dermatologists who use as influencers. While we also have celebrity moms who could also stand as influencers for the brand. So in all, there's no one size fits all. Now, the most important thing to do in using an influencer is that your brand purpose must align with whatever interest or purpose the influencer you're using has. The affinity that you can create will aid, better understanding for your consumers when what you want to do is in sync with the, the influencer's purpose. The value of an influencer cannot be emphasized, and they are very much important. Now, they drive either paid or unpaid media, either through editorials or, inspire people just by making comments around what you do and how to position your brand. Yeah, working with influencers, I'm on slide 7 now.
Okay.
It is important that brands approach their work with influencers as a mutually beneficial partnership. It is not just something that you are just dashing somebody money because you like the person. The mutual benefits should be that the objectives are clearly defined early enough, where the influencer knows what to expect, and you as a brand know and set the standards of what the output should be, and all this has to be measured. So they have expectations also from the brand, that's as an influencer. So the brand also should set clear expectations, and then the strategy must be such that the job to be done, because for example, in Unilever, we have what we call job to be done. I don't know if, so go to slide 7, 8, or where am I now? Go to slide 7 or 8. Now go down.
It's loading, I think, because the slide format is in A4. It's not coming up on the...
Okay, let me continue on my own slide. I'm on slide 9 now.
Slide 9, okay. Let me just move to slide 9. Yeah, right?
I can... Yes. Okay. Okay, don't worry. I'll use mine. Yes, I'm on slide 9 now. So a job to be done, yes. Make sure to define clear objectives for your influencer programming, supporting your job to be done. That means, what do you really want to achieve? For example, Knorr, we say we want to have all meals in Nigeria prepared using natural Knorr seasoning powder. Now, that is a job to be done, very broad. But then you need to define what your objective you want to achieve with an influencer fit into this broad job to be done. So you must clearly define your job to be done. There must be a clear brief. Most times we just say, okay, I just want to be known. I want to be known is not a brief. You must clearly define what to measure and what being known entails for you as a brand, and even for the influencer. Now, in some situations, we decide to use macro influencers. We have mega influencers and macro influencers and micro influencers. It shouldn't all be just because the person has a follower or a high rate of followers that you choose the person. You must define what is your target audience, who are the people you want to talk to, and what is their size. Now, engagement for me, I think, is more important, because if an influencer just have, let's say, 1 million followers, and he puts a post and you have only three interactions on it, that person, I don't think, is fit to have organic followers. It means probably the person just bought some fictitious followers. So you need to be sure and track enough that this person actually has so much engagement, so that if the person posts something around your brand, it will elicit what to be said. And then your content is key as well, in terms of what really is the person posting. How is the language, how does it fit what the brand wants to achieve? So we need to create credibility. It must be authentic, whatever you are saying. So it's not that some posts, it's obvious that this person is posting it because they pay. Yeah, the person is being paid. So example, there are times where, you go and choose Genevieve to come and advertise or promote Lux as a beauty soap that she uses. Nobody will believe that Genevieve uses Lux. So that is already out of place and not authentic. There are so many examples like that you could just go and take somebody and say, okay, the person does this. Whereas from the person's position and, how do I call it, now profile, the consumer already knows that this person just collected money to say this, not because. So, but that same person can still craft the message in a way that will not make it seem like doubtful for what he or she has decided to do for you as a brand. So you must first collaborate with influencers who have a high engagement, not just high following. Always consider what is in it for your consumer, especially, in this part of the world. In most campaigns, you need to put incentives, example, discounts or vouchers for consumers. Usually, campaigns that, involve these things usually perform better than just informative campaigns where you are asking them to do something. You tell them, okay, do this and get a coupon. That is more engaging than just posting Knorr is a good brand. Like I said earlier on, ensure that the influencer is fit for your brand and business. That means fit into your brand purpose. Every brand has a purpose, and the person must fit into your purpose. For example, now, if I want to advertise Dudu Oshun, and I go and carry Omotola to advertise Dudu Oshun, I think Omotola's position fits into the purpose of Dudu Oshun. So you must look for those examples that, those things that fit into your purpose. The influencer must also take into consideration cultural, social nuances within whatever content he or she is creating. For example, you must ensure that somewhere in the north, you're not putting a woman who is how do I call it, in skimpy dresses. Sorry, I'm sounding like I'm talking about the dons now, but I'm trying to highlight what we do. I'm not trying to belittle what the other speaker will say, but then, there's no way you talk about to-dos that you may not have to dovetail into, which already highlights what you can do. But then he will throw more light to it and show us how best to collaborate and, use influencers for a greater purpose and output to create value for our brand. Like I said earlier on, authenticity is key. You must create authenticity. Thank you. Any questions for me?
Thank you very much, George. I think what we can do is just so we can be, following the time, let's just shift on to Raphael to also have his own pitch, and then we can take questions afterwards. So we can take questions that you guys can both answer afterwards. So thank you very much for that wonderful presentation. Your slides are also looking very lovely as well. So I'm just going to shift on to introducing Raphael now. So let me go back to share my slides. I think everything is back under control now. Great. So now we're going to the next speaker. We're in the place of Mr. Raphael Idu. Mr. Raphael Idu is a strong creative strategist, a business leader, a vivid ideas person with passion and expertise in brand building, storytelling, and marketing communication specialist. That's basically who Mr. Raphael Idu is. He has over 10 years experience in creative marketing and leading consumer communication for household brands like Gouda, 7-Up, Pepsi, Golden Penny Food, Golden Penny Noodles, Peak, Skankfrost, Maggi, Golden Morn, Nestle Waters, Indomie, Kellogg's, to mention a few. But in terms of brand ambassador and influencers, he has successfully worked with the best of the best, including Don Jazzy, the mighty Don Jazzy. He has shown during roles as a copywriter at Insight, creative director at Leo Bonnet in Lagos, and presently he is CEO and Chief Executive Officer, Creative Officer at Poke Global. Prefer to call it Poke Global, as Raf prefers to call it, and Poke Limited, a creative consultancy that seeks to help brands turn their business goals into medium fluid solutions. Raphael's creative mantra is founded on the belief that creativity is most powerful when used as a force for good. His passion is overseeing ideas overseeing ideas that not only impact the business bottom line, but also impact the consumer positively. Please, everyone, give a warm welcome to Mr. Raphael Idu. Raphael, the ground is yours. Please go ahead.
Okay, you have my slides now, right?
Let me check.
If not, then
you sent it to me.
Let me see if I can share screen. Okay,
yes.
Yes, I have.
Okay, let me quickly look. Or let me give you access to share as well.
Okay, can you, without letting people take?
Just a second. Answer to that question now. The size to be shared with people who read the size.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for attending. It's going to be quick. I think the first speaker has already covered a lot of ground, so I'll make it as quick as possible. I think he was also of the opinion that I'll be covering the don'ts. I'm not actually doing do's, but I'll talk about the don'ts as well. I really come from the negative, saying that I have to not ever look at things from the negative, but just tell you how it can be made better. Can I share screen now?
Yes, you can.
Okay. I can. So you're going to see, I mean, for me, it's a very short presentation. Hold on, it's a bit wonky now. Let me see if I can, okay. It's a bit hanging, okay. Okay, so there's a page with the titles, but I think we can take it from here. So I'm just going to run into 5 points. I think these are just 5 basic points from my perspective and from my experience that have worked for us, not just for me, but for my team here at Poke. That's led to successes, and I'll talk about some of the case studies that I have worked on. And you can always just maybe buzz me or check up on Poke. It's Poke LTD on Instagram, and I think we have a case study in our stories or whatever that is called, so you can check it out. But I'll talk about some of them. The first thing that is necessary about to have an influencer marketing campaign, he has already explained what influencer marketing is and all of that, so I don't think I need to go into that. I do, however, need to say that influencer marketing is about influence. And so the first thing you have to be mindful of is to have an objective. Now, a lot of brands and a lot of people who go into using influencers or trying to do influencer marketing rarely seem to have the objective locked down or are not clear about what that objective is. Always make the objective clear, the end result, and make it simple. Don't try to create 10 objectives. Oh, I want people to convert, and I want people to do this, and I want people to do that. We all know that people have their lives, and as much as we think our products or our services are that important, it's part of a pool of things that our consumer has to tackle every day. So give a clear objective, set that clear objective, and then be very, very disciplined about that objective. So if you choose an influencer based on that objective. I think the don't of this would be don't do it for clout. And this happens a lot in managers approve influencers basically because they want to have drinks with them and be part of the cool kid club. Stick to the objective. Don't ever do it for clout. Don't ever do it for clout for your brand or for yourself. Stick to, this is what I want to achieve. I'll give you an example of an objective that we had in one of the campaigns we created. It was for Indomie. It's called Who Should Cook Dinner. And the objective was that at the end of the day, people would, men and women would cook for Valentine, and guys would cook for girls and girls would cook for guys. Now, what we then did was in creating that narrative, we worked with Sharon Oja and Ice Prince, and we created a relationship between them that would then foster the story that we wanted to tell at the end. The objective was very clear. So we made sure that whatever was going to be said, whatever was going to be measured at the end of the day was measured based on what we had seeded into that conversation. And one of the most popular ones that we had was one where we did, where we launched Indomie Relish. And the objective for us at the end of the day was that we wanted to create a first day sale or a first day interest for this product, to the point where people would, I would see this happen many times when Apple launches a product and people rush over to the store and there's a line. We wanted to create that kind of energy in the space, in the marketing space. And what happened is that at the end of the day, and you can Google this and check this yourself, there were people who tweeted pictures of empty shelves because they had gone to buy and they couldn't buy. And that is the kind of impact you want to have. At the end of the day, we have really done a campaign that didn't have a reach when we used influencers of over 10 million, and this is organic. So in using your influencer, be clear about your objective. So that's the first thing. Be very clear. Write it down, state it down. Write the influencer's conversation exactly to the objective that you want to achieve. Don't let them wing it. A lot of brands do campaigns and use influencers. And this is the end result. And I'll tell you, you can see this all the time when the brand uses an influencer. They do a campaign with an influencer. The end result usually is, you see in the comments, people are saying, oh, this influencer, you're too much. Oh, this influencer, you have hammer. Oh, this influencer, you've made money. But nothing about what the brand set out to achieve. When you have that situation, it's because the objective was not clear. So that's the first thing. The second is to have a plan. Now, how is the plan different from the objective? The objective is what you want to achieve. The plan is how you're going to achieve it. Never let that, never wing it. Like I said before, never feel, okay, this is just going to fall into place. It often does not. Make sure that everything, the intention is clear, the step by step, stage by stage. If you watched Big Brother, if you watch Big Brother, for those who watch the show, yes, day before yesterday, we had an engagement that happened in the house for Indomie. And the objective was very clear. The plan was very precise. At the end of the day, the comments that were being made organically were exactly what was in our deck of what we wanted to achieve. Always have that plan that says, stage one, my influencer would say this, my brand will reply, my influencer would say this, my brand will reply, people will reply. If I have micro influencers will jump up at this stage. If I'm using blog for influence, blogs will jump up at this stage. Always have that plan to the very end. Don't ever leave it to chance. Take opportunity of things that happen outside of the plan. Yes. Take opportunity when people begin to say things, jump on it, enrich the conversation. But always have set out. Always have the beginning and the end set out. Here at Pope, we have somebody who we call our campaign manager. Now, our campaign manager makes sure that the campaign runs according to plan. So that is something that we know that soon creative consultancies and agencies will begin to look at, and brands will begin to ask for, and have people who handle campaigns in-house. But we already believe that that is the way to succeed. Implementation is very good. We've had campaigns that we implemented, 0 to 200, because once the plan is clear, it's easy to implement. If there was something we did for the African of Nations where we swung it around, I called it the African Plate of Nations, and we had meals from all African countries that were playing the nation represented as dishes. And so when Nigeria played Ghana, it would be our meal versus their meal, and have conversations so that people can have conversations there. The influencers we use for that are influencers that are within that scope, and that will lead me to the next thing: be authentic. Do be authentic. Yes, somebody might have a lot of followers, but is their conversation authentic to what you want to seed? It's very important. When the campaign we spoke about, when we did it with Don Jazzy, we knew that Don Jazzy couldn't start the conversation. So we started the conversation with Toke Makinwa. And she wasn't and another thing is, oftentimes we don't use, the role of the brand ambassador is fading. And now we're having brand influencers. We do this thing where we use the celebrity for their influence. It's almost like celebrities today. If you look at your influencer, think of a TV station, think of MTV Base, or think of Trace, or think of any of the TV stations. That is almost what an influencer is. He or she is a platform that gets eyeballs and gets conversation for you. So it's almost like taking your TV and making it word of mouth, which is more believable. That's when you have, that's what you have with an influencer. So make sure that the influencer who's going to speak for you.
Hello?
Hello. So make sure that the influencer who's going to speak for you, their authenticity is credible. Their conversations are credible for the message that you want to send. And I've seen this happen so many times where somebody talks about a product and people are like, but you don't use this product. It's clear you don't use this product. So be mindful of that. So please do be authentic. The next one is do use tools. So a lot of people don't know this, and when I say a lot of people, in terms of small businesses, when they use influencers, you should be able to use a tool to check what did you achieve, what KPIs did you set for yourself, and then how did those KPIs come through. So quite a few times you have people say, oh, people talked about it. The tools will show you what. The tools will show you what you achieved, who was talking about your campaign, who was what were they saying. It can also show you human, like even when you're using a big influencer, it can show you other people who carried on conversations about. In fact, tools can also help you plan who your influencer will be, because it can show you who is more topical on the conversation, and who is carrying your conversation forward. There's something that we say here. We say when you're creating a conversation, always look for what's topical, timely, or evolving, because that way you can impact consumer. You can make the consumer say, oh, this topic, I've been talking about it. Now, when you take an influencer and have an influencer who is relevant for that topic, for example, if you want to sell diapers, and there's a new mom. I'll even give you an example. A long time ago, I worked on a campaign found on Conga. It was quite popular. It was for Conga.com. It was, I think, the first real campaign into the market. And it was hashtag found on Conga. And one of the challenges we had is, so when we had a conversation with the client, they wanted us to work on the campaign. But before we knew it, they had signed an influencer. They had signed Tiwa Savage. And the idea they had in their head was that Tiwa Savage would do a song, a dance, blah, blah, blah. Lo and behold, Tiwa was pregnant. So now you had sensitive to, but we were happy. The client was like, oh, wait, hold on, she's pregnant. I said, yes. But now you have the opportunity for Tiwa Savage, who is an expectant mother, to show that she ordered stuff from your platform. So she's not dancing and singing because that wouldn't be authentic. She is ordering stuff for her baby coming into the world on your platform. And that gives you the opportunity to be authentic, as opposed to have her dance and singing when, I mean, at the end of the day, every brand wants to do dance and singing, but it's just weird for me. So in the ad, we shot her as a pregnant woman. We didn't try to cover it up. We didn't try to hide it. We shot her as a pregnant woman who had ordered, and you can find the ad. It's still online somewhere. We shot her, and this is over 5 years. Way over 5 years. And we shot her as a pregnant woman who was receiving a package for her soon-to-be born baby. And we shot her as Tiwa Savage. So when the delivery guy came, he was shocked. Oh, wow, Tiwa Savage. So if you check that out, you'll see how we used her as an influencer to achieve our goals. So back to topic, use tools. There are quite a few free tools out there. There are also tools that you pay for. I mean, the truth is that the more you pay for it, the more accurate the tool will be and the more impactful the tool will be. And then finally, which is, I think, long for me, to consult a professional. So, I mean, talk to a professional. Not necessarily us, but there are quite a few people there who do this, who can help you create a plan, create impact, help you strategize. I mean, the strategy for me is the cake. Strategy first before you jump in and sign the celebrity. Then after you sign the celebrity, you go, okay, so what are we supposed to do now? So strategy is always key, always important. I think that is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ralph. That was a lovely presentation. I picked a few things myself. I'm sure everybody else also was able to pick one or two things. One of the things I picked was that you should always have your strategy straightforward, clear, and also have the matrix that you're looking to achieve also clear. So thank you very much for that presentation, Ralph. We have a few questions already. So Ralph, okay, yeah, you can stop sharing now, Ralph. Yeah, thank you. So we have a few questions already that we have gotten from most of the participants here today. So I'm just going to go through those questions quickly. So Ralph and George, you guys can decide to pick on any of the questions to answer. So the first question that I have here is, what are the typical costs, rates in Ghana, Nigeria, basically the markets that you've influenced in or that you've run campaigns in? What are the typical rates or costs of actually hiring a brand influencer to endorse your product? And how do you go about the recruitment? I know Ralph already mentioned about speaking to a consultant, a professional, but I think you can speak more on this about what's the expected cost on how to even engage that particular influencer.
Okay, George, do you want to take that? Should I take it? It's fine, I take it.
You can chip in as well, but for me, I'll say there's no size fits all. No two influencers take the same rate. For example, in 2018, we had a partnership for Rexona with Chelsea. And even the amount or the figure we signed with, what's his name, Kante, was different from what we signed for David Lewis. That same team was different from what we signed with Hazard. There was one of them that rejected the offer. So you can't, it's not one size fits all. It depends on your objective, the authenticity, the profile or reach and engagement levels or outputs that the influencer wants to give you. So usually it's best to use consultants like Raphael has said, let consultants guide you. One of the mistakes we make is to say, because I want to reduce costs, you go talking to the influencers yourself. Most times, the money you think you're saving from not using, how do I call it, influencers, you're actually losing it from, mismanagement of the influencer process. There's an influencer we used in 2018 that kept all of us waiting for over 5 hours, including my MD. We used the consultant, but the consultant did not even have a clout with this guy. And so it was an embarrassment. So you also need to be wary of that, even though we paid huge. So it's not cast in stone how much you should pay. Nobody can tell you pay between 100,000 to 500,000 to influencers. It depends on who the person is, the length of project, the size of projects, the output, the doables. So no two contracts are the same, please.
Great. Raphael, what do you want to add to that?
I mean, he has said it all. No two contracts are identical. There is some influencers who have become organized, have a rate card, and that rate card is what they use in determining, how you negotiate with them. So most of them, even at that, rate cards often are the beginning of negotiations as opposed to fixed in stone prices that they don't go back or forth from. So there are not two influencers who have the same cost or whatever. And really, a lot of it is also a part of negotiation and what you call it, and relationship. Now, the good thing about some consultants is that they might have built a relationship with the influencer and can tell you, hey, this influencer uses this influencer. There are some influencers, I will tell you, I won't mention names, but if you came to me and you said, do you want to use this influencer? I would, and which is what George is saying, but I think also the consultant should have been fair. I would tell you that this influencer would stress me and you have to be prepared for it. I would give you the gamut. I would tell you what you can achieve with that influencer, but I also tell you the pain points that might come with it. Some influencers are very disciplined, and you also have to understand these are humans we're dealing with. Sometimes using an artist who probably performed a show yesterday, the day before, and I've also had this situation where an influencer who we locked down, we didn't know the influencer had gone for a show, told us that he'd be there in the morning for a shoot that was supposed to start by call time was about 8, didn't arrive till 2 or 3, but when he arrived, he apologized and gave it his all, and we made up for it. And since then, I've been very supportive of the brand. So and I would use influencer again, but knowing fully well what the restrictions are. So understanding who and who, and we know that everybody who uses influencers, we know that list. We know those influencers that you would have a breeze. They'll be there on time. They'll do what you ask for. They love the project. They'll give their all. They'll give their best to that project. We also know the influencers that we're just paying because we're paying them. We're paying you, and that's So those things are always there. I mean, it's a human industry. It's a service industry. So you unfortunately have to have those from time to time.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that contribution, Raphael and George. This brings me to the next question, which is for what you said, Ralph. How do you leverage an influencer marketing professional or an influencer, basically? How do you leverage them with a shoestring budget, especially for startup businesses that don't really have a lot of capital and they just want to use this influencer to be able to grow their business? How do you leverage them effectively to get them to actually be able to give your matrix or make your matrix happen for your business?
Okay, so the first thing I tell clients on a shoestring budget, or even any clients, is, and when they come and me, oh, I want to join influencer, first I say, calm down, take a deep breath, take your eyes off the influencer and focus on the strategy, and let's get the strategy right. Because the strategy will affect first who the influencer is, and second, what you do to make sure you are loud enough. Now, for small brands, it's actually, and the truth is, we seem to have taken that it's a one-size influencer, one-size fits all, and that's all that was happening. We have had several successes without even using big influencers and just using what we call micro influencers to carry on a topical conversation which we've seeded in the marketplace. So sometimes you take a topical, so there's a graph, I'm not sure I have it on my page, on the poke page, I'm not sure it's there, but it's a graph of how far into a conversation you can go to create the most impact. So for example, I'll give you an example. If tomorrow, a perfect example is Nike. With Nike's, what you call this campaign, we're calling Kaepernick, stand for something, even if it costs you everything. Now, Nike went the furthest. Nike went the furthest. Sorry. Nike went the furthest in the spectrum of talking and dealing with racism. They went the boldest in that conversation spectrum to create the most conversation. And then they used the right perfect target bull spot on influencer, who, I mean, is not the biggest pro league person. He wasn't even playing in the league at that point. So, but they picked him based on the fact that he was bullseye for how far they wanted to take that conversation. So if a client comes and they say, okay, I want to create as much buzz on this conversation, the first thing we say is, let's fix the idea. Might not even need an influencer. I'll give you another perfect example. At some point, an agency was approached to create a campaign, and I wish we did this campaign actually. It's one of my favorite campaigns. They wanted to, I think the site was called Live Free, and they wanted that site to basically have the most traffic for that day. And so they wanted to create a campaign that would do that. Now, the first thing that anybody would say is, let's get an influencer, but that's not what these guys did. They showed a video, a very gritty, badly shot video of a guy who was climbing a fence. This guy climbed the fence, backpack, not an influencer. He climbed the fence, he got into an airfield, and he ran to a plane. And then the camera, very badly shot camera, like it was shot with a mobile phone. And then this guy went to this plane, and he sprayed on with a mace can, livefree.com, the name of the website. Now, when the camera pulled out, you realize that the plane had the Air Force One logo on it, the American president's plane. That site crashed that day with traffic. No influencer, just the power of the idea. Now, the American government had to put out a disclaimer that plane was not Air Force One. So what these guys just did is they just got an old plane, tiny plane, they mocked it up to look like Air Force One, and they did this campaign. So what I first tell you is, fix the idea, get the idea right. Then we'll talk about the influencer. The influencer is the second part of the conversation. The idea is the first part. So whatever your budget is, also be very open with your budget. Here, a lot of clients are always scared to tell you about their budget. So they tell you, oh, do whatever you want, it's fine, just go. Then you go, and no, you have to calm down. This is how much I want, this is how much I have, this is what the kind of impact, and then both of you sit down as partners and then reach an agreement of what kind of campaign you want to run. That really for me is the long and hard of it.
Yeah, that sounds great, Ralph. So before I take the questions I can see in the chat group, I can see you guys already drop in a couple of questions in the chat group. One last question I want to pick from the questions we already have here is, what kind of contracts do you sign with an influencer? What kind of contracts are you looking, would you sign with an influencer, especially for brands out there? What kind of contract would you design to sign? I mean, what are the major clauses that should be in that contract that would bind the influencer with the brand to basically execute that particular campaign?
Okay, like I said earlier on,
Yep.
no contracts are the same and no size fits all.
Mm.
You need to engage a professional, a lawyer, to guide you on what suits what your objective is. Now, for example, there are exclusive, how do I call it, contracts, and there are open contracts. Inclusive contracts means that the influencer will not work for any other brand. Sometimes, most extreme cases, no other brand, whether competing or not competing. But most contracts has that not working for any other, how do I call it, brand over a period. For some, they will say, okay, if it is for 1 year that works for you, after that 1 year, I am free to go to another brand. For some brands, they will say no, like there was one exclusive one we signed with a baby for peers. And the child was, it was locked for years. Now, in that case, it will also inform how much or what the influencer is asking for. For some, especially, the, how do I call it, celebrity ones, they will refuse to lock themselves, tie themselves to you because they also want to make money from other places. You can't pay for all that they do. So you can't just say, what kind of contract will you sign? It is dependent on your objective. For the artist I was talking about earlier on, we had a contract of just 1 year with him, and he was supposed to perform in 5 other African countries within that period of 1 year. I think it was about January to December or thereabout, or February to January of the next year. So it depends really on what your objective is. Now, for someone who is going to go to 5 African countries, he started demanding for a jet, for, how do I call it, a jet, chauffeurs, of hotel. So really, it depends on what your objective is. Like for somebody who asked about how much or how to get influencers, I'll give you an example. Gold Reg, makers of these hair products, Darling and what's the name? There's this hair cream that they use. They went ahead to look for micro influencers, people who had, let's say 20,000 followers, 50,000 followers, and they know that they have engagement. You see that this is directly to women who are close to them. So it's not that you just took Genevieve, who they may not trust, to use that hair product, but you used one person. And so what they did was to create a link that lands you on Jumia page to make a purchase. And so they will know that this page was for George or for Beati that led the person to make that purchase on Jumia. So it's really, your strategy has to be all encompassing, end to end, a full plan. It's not something that somebody can just tell you off the head that this is how to go about it. It has to be something that you sit down to draft a proper strategy, sit with a consultant and your agency to say, look, this is what to do. Don't look at cost first. Look at what are my objectives and what do I want to achieve. Thank you.
That's great, George. Thank you very much. I can see a lot of people, a lot of participants are learning a lot from today's session. I can see a bunch of questions here already. So I'm just going to combine a few questions. A question from Kemi, the question from Temitope, and also the question from Sadiju. So the question is, how do you measure the return on investment, particularly for an ad campaign with an influencer? How do you measure? And is there like a tool you can use to measure these metrics, like a KPI that you can use, or what tool can you use? And on the average, what is the expected return on investment? I mean, on the average, what kind of return on investment have you seen from your campaigns, George? Or what kind of return on investment have you seen from your campaign, Raphael?
You are asking for what return on investment on each campaign?
Yes, exactly. So the campaign could be maybe just the campaign, also including perhaps the ad spend. If there's a Facebook ad marketing spend, how do you measure the influence that particular influencer was able to get for you on your products? Particularly, how do you, the amount of sales you're able to generate through that period of time? How can you tie it directly?
I was on mute. So for me, I'll tell you that what you measure actually depends on your, how do I call it, your objective. For some people, you are looking for a reach. How many people are engaged? over a period of time. How many people? So there's also click-through rates. So there are different terms that you use. How many people saw the ad and clicked on it? So, like I said, it's not something that can really be defined completely here, but majorly, most of the time, it's top of mind awareness. Now, the difficult thing is how to transform it to sales. And like I used the Godrej as example earlier on. What they did was to create a link, a landing page to Jumia, so that whoever buys goes straight, it shows which influencer page led into that purchase. Now, for us, when we ran the campaign with Chelsea, we had special cans that were Street to Stamford, what do I call it? We call the Street to Stamford cans and limited edition. And the people only had to purchase, send a code. Now, the campaign was all on digital media. And so you had to go to a website to register, either to be a footballer or a spectator. We took a team of 11 players African players to Chelsea to play, that year. So it really depends on so measure for me was that, the objective of going to, how do I call it? The number of sales of cans of, Rexona that we targeted to sell, we exceeded it. In terms of page building and page followership and click-through and all that, we achieved most of those, and top of mind awareness was high, because top of mind awareness, sometimes you use an external, marketing research agencies to take that on for you. So multinationals usually do that. But as an individual, if you go to your Facebook or Instagram posts and you promote, you can always check the measures. I can't collect how they do it now, but there's a place where you go, it will show you number of your ad, number of people who click through, number of people who took action. So most times your content drives what engagement comes in. You understand? So if your content is that is giving them a call to action and is interesting or engaging, then the people would, interact with you. So that interaction is what you measure. Except you have a link between your offline and that online, you can't really measure the return on investment in terms of sales. But in terms of top of mind, reach, engagement, click-through, there are so many terms I can't remember now. I know Raphael would have all those on top of his finger. Thanks.
Thank you, George. Raphael, do you have a bit of contributions to make? Raphael, I think you're on mute right now. Raphael, we can't hear you still. Nope, we can't hear you still. Your mic doesn't seem to be on mute. It seems it's not on mute, but we can't hear you. Maybe you check your computer. Perhaps you have your mic inactive. Okay. Yeah.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you now. We can hear you now, Ralph. You can go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Technology. So like George has already said, your KPIs, what you decide to measure is what you should hold. So some measurements translate to something. So for example, reach. You would have to look at things like awareness. You have to look at things like reach, engagement. And those metrics just come in whatever tool you're using, and some of them are default to platforms like Facebook, Instagram, if you're doing an online campaign. But what I always advise is, if you use a consultant who actually knows their salt, what they'll do is they'll create a funnel for you, and that funnel would lead to whatever you want to achieve. So a perfect example that I always give is, if you want to sell a product, yeah? So you want to sell a product, and I'll get some insights and questions from you. If you've noticed that every holiday, the sales of your product skyrockets up. Then our job is to create a holiday. That's what we have to do. That's our job. You get what I mean? So that's what we then try to do. Because if we find out what is it about holidays, that makes your product sell. But it takes a discipline from both the client, the person who's saying, I have my product. You must have studied your product and your consumers well. You must have some insights, some human insights, and then we will back that up with also some human insight research that we do. And we then, okay, so this is what we noticed about your product. Whenever your product is being used, and there's so many instances of this, and is it possible to create a holiday? Yes. American Express did it in America for small businesses when they created small businesses. So brands can actually create holidays just to sell their product. What they call it, the Bears created the fact that we wear diamond rings to celebrate weddings and engagements just to sell their diamonds. Coca-Cola is rumored to have created Santa Claus and the holiday of Christmas just to sell Coke. So it's possible, but that's understanding what sells your product. If sales is what you want to do, then you have to know your funnel. If what you want, which is also a valuable conversation to have, then you must know what makes people aware of you. You must know what is being talked about. You must plug in what people are talking about. So you can't just tell people, oh, my product is made of this, and you expect them to. Like, why do I care? If that's your product, be happy. But you have to find a way for your product to plug into the scope of necessity of who you want to target, and that's how you achieve it. So you have to write out those. That's part of the objective. What do I want to achieve? In one word, the briefs you send out to clients have that clearly stated. What do you achieve? There used to be a saying that they say, what keeps you up at night? You need to be clear on that, and that's what you try to achieve with that campaign and with the influencer you use.
Thank you very much, Ralph. Thank you very much, George. I think we are running out of time, so we can do only one last question. So one last question, which is from Amadi, which says, for startup, what do you get access to? How do you get access to good professionals? And what kind of questions do you ask these good professionals? Also asking Raphael, how do we get to you? So basically, this is more of a question to Raphael. How would they contact you if they want to contact a professional? And what kind of questions would we ask?
I'm on mute now. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you, Ralph. Go ahead.
Okay, so my company handle is Poke Ltd. That's Poke, Poke as in Ltd, Limit Ltd. Just check us on Instagram. You can just send us a message on Instagram, and we'll have a conversation. In terms of what questions do you ask a professional? I mean, if you're using also, or anybody who's your preferred professional to use, a lot of, if you're fresh to marketing, a lot of professionals who would love to work on your brand would take you through a hand-holding session, understand, terms and things you need to do. There is the best campaigns that we've worked on are campaigns where we've sat either physically or on WhatsApp, because I mean, we know that the times don't permit people to meet as much anymore on WhatsApp or calls, and you just have a clear conversation about what is bothering you about your product or what you want to achieve. Just have that kind of conversation. We will send you a brief later. Our brief is written in a way where it's very easy, it's very simple to understand. We don't use highfalutin words that we know that you're not a marketing expert, but it would help you understand what to tell us. And from that, we will mine deeper and we will mine into what it is that you really want to tell us. Because sometimes people say, okay, this is what I want, but then on the line, somewhere between that conversation, is hidden the real onus of the conversation. So usually in our presentation document, sometimes we have that's why we have the things like the brief, but then we have the objective. So sometimes you tell us, oh, this is what I want you to do. I want a TV ad or radio ad or whatever. But then oftentimes the objective, what you want to achieve really is totally different. So we have to do that session with you, and we're happy to. You can just send me a message on the on what you call it, on Poke LTD, just send a message. Somebody will take it up, and we can have a chat from there. But also, I mean, we're open to. There's so many good professionals out there who know what they're doing. Sometimes just look for the campaign you love and find out who did that campaign, and I'm sure you will speak to somebody who knows what they're doing. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Raphael, and thank you very much, George, as well. I'm afraid we've come to the end of the webinar for today. Thank you very much, everyone, for attending. We are going to send the slides and also this recording to everyone. So if you miss out on anything, don't worry, you can catch it up in the recording. So thank you very much to our hosts, Raphael and George. It was a pleasure having you guys here today. We hope that next time we call on you guys again, you guys will be excited to be part of our webinar sometime again. And also, thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
All right, great, George.
Thank you very much. Have a lovely day. Bye.
All right, awesome. All right, guys, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your day, and bye for now.